Renunciation is in the mind. Renunciation means that capacity to turn the attention back to one's own essence and become aware that one's well-being is dependent on nothing. That joyousness of existence is there in us. You are the source of your happiness. Let's talk a bit about vairagya, renunciation, detachment. Niels has asked me whether I could talk a bit more about it. There are different schools with different ideas about it. Some yogic school who are totally into renunciation, they want that one is renouncing everything externally. Others say, no, the renunciation has to be in the mind. You have to be detached in the mind. And then it's not important what the external circumstances are. Niels mentions also that some different spiritual schools say one has to renounce all sexuality in order to have a chance. And he would like me to talk about it. Renunciation as a general subject, but I guess this is always a bit delicate subject. The whole sexual thing is what has been driving people crazy throughout the history. It's not an easy subject because so much energy is involved into it. All the five senses are totally involved in it. It's the strongest physical force in the body. It's something that is for nobody really easy to deal with. And then many spiritual schools say it's best to just renounce it completely and transform that energy. But this is not such an easy thing. I admit that yogis who are capable of transforming that energy and keep a total celibacy. And celibacy means not only having not to do with partners, but also not doing anything to oneself. Anyone yogi who is doing that and is capable of transforming that energy has certainly a greater energetical resource than somebody who is not doing that. But it's not easy to do so. If that is not done properly, then instead of transforming that energy, one is suppressing it and it's accumulating, and eventually it starts to create problems, more problems than if one would have had a moderate sexual life. I've seen people who desperately try to be celibates, but then it became so strong, it was always in their mind. And it would have been better they would have had a moderate sexual life, then they could have thought of something else in between. So you cannot give a general rule externally what we have to renounce and what not. If somebody feels like letting go completely all external attachments, live the life of an ascetic, and that comes natural, then that is the right thing to do. But if that is not natural and somebody forces oneself to do so, then it can create endless pain and not help much, if anything. Renunciation is in the mind. Renunciation means that capacity to turn the attention back to one's own essence and become aware that one's well-being is dependent on nothing. That joyousness of existence is there in us. You are the source of your happiness. If we become aware of this, then the detachment comes quite easy and natural. Now it makes sense if we live a very agitated life, always on the run, doing this, doing that, always running after kicks, that one is reducing that there is a general direction of making the life simpler and not more complicated, because the tendency is the more the life is complicated, the more the mind is engaged and agitated all the time, and it's more difficult to just let it go and come back to simple being. But one has to follow one's natural way. Deep down, everybody knows what is right. Everybody is connected with that all oneness, in harmony with that all oneness. And if we learn to listen in that direction, from there we get a clear guidance what is right for us and what not. But it's easy to fool oneself in the mind and argue against the deeper inner feeling. So I would say, as a rule of thumb, one question of Niels was, if we like something very much, do we have to renounce it? I think if we like certain things, then we can also do them, but do them consciously. Do them with the awareness that there is something that is not dependent on that. Bring the attention back to that and watch what's going on, and then there is nothing wrong. Having things one likes better than other things. That's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as we are not becoming dependent, as long as we are aware my well-being, my happiness is not dependent of that. Many times householders would come to Ramana Maharshi and ask whether they can become sannyasis and asking for Ramana's blessings, and he used to send them home and say, go in your family, live your family life, but do your practice, do your self-inquiry, live consciously. Your wanting to become a sannyasi is simply a way of wanting to run away from the duties, because you are a bit fed up with it, the duties that come along with a family life. But if you identify now with the family life and become, because of that, a sannyasi, you will simply identify with the sannyasi life. So it's not the external renunciation, but the identification with it. And if we learn to be aware, if we learn to observe what we are doing, what's going on in our mind, we become subtler and subtler conscious of what really is draining our energy. That if there springs up an idea and I should have this and I should have this, and we dwell on it and turn the thoughts and the emotions around it, then it's like a drain of energy. And that we have to renounce. That doesn't mean we have to renounce necessarily the external action, but become aware how strong a pull there is in a certain direction, and we dwell on it all the time, worry about it. Is it possible? Is it not possible? What is going to happen if I do it? And then there is such a great investment of prana, of our life force, in that it is draining. If we see that, there we can consciously renounce it. And renouncing that means to consciously bring the attention back to that which is prior to it. The essence. Get rooted in that. And from there, we can playfully go about our life, doing things that we like, not running away from things that come that we don't like. We don't have to run after things that we don't like, but we don't have to run away from them. Accepting that sometimes the circumstances happen to our liking and sometimes not to our liking. If we can take it with equanimity, then we let the situations come, pleasant or unpleasant, deal with them and let them go again, which is important, because it's not simply the situations where we are in, but after that hanging on to it emotionally, positively or negatively. Something that was nice, and then we dream about it. Oh, I want it again, and there we drain ourselves. Something that was not nice, and we let the anger and frustration and the disgust and whatever feelings that were come up again, and we dwell on it, and there we drain our energy. If we learn to live from moment to moment, let the things come as they come, deal with them, and let them go as they go, whether they have been pleasant or unpleasant, then they don't leave a trace. The rule of thumb is moderation. Don't be too excessive, but also don't be cruel to yourself. Suppress what you would like to do, because if we suppress it, it's simply accumulating and creating more problem than it's helping. Live naturally, but consciously. Aware what's going on inside. Aware how we are reacting to the situations. And those reactions that are draining, that are not helpful, we can learn to let them go. In order to be capable to let them go, of letting them go, we have to become aware that they are there. We have to become aware that what we are doing. And then we can become capable of learning not to do anymore that which is destructive. Then everybody has to be the judge for oneself. What is right and what is not right to do? Should I give something up, or can I keep it, but keep it under control? And in order to be capable of deciding like this, we have to learn to be honest with ourselves. It should be natural. that we are honest with ourselves, but unfortunately we have grown up in a world where everybody is not honest. We are not honest, have grown up learning not to be honest with the other people, and we have certainly learned to not to be honest with ourselves. That which should be natural there, we have to learn again. And in order to have a chance to learn that, we have to intend to be honest and practice it. Have a good look, to good, clear look at ourselves. And then not all the time try to make excuses, but simply see what's going on. And by practicing that consciously, we become more and more honest, and in that more increasing honesty, we know deep down what is right for us and what is not right for us. It's nothing wrong to develop a certain amount of self-discipline. That not every little wind that comes out to our head is capable of pushing us left or right. But we don't have to torture ourselves. Learn to be relaxed and natural. And then the question of renunciation becomes easy to deal with. Then you will do maybe things that you thought before it's better not to do, and you understand it's fine, you can do it, it doesn't do any harm if I do it in the right spirit. Rule of thumb: moderation is not bad. Rather, make the life simpler than more complicated. But even there, sometimes there may be an exception. That we feel, okay, something really is on the program. It will make my life at least temporarily more complicated, and it feels right to do so. So let me go for it. But with the intent to keep that awareness, to keep that possibility to observe what's going on. And the more we are capable of observing, the more we are detaching. Because in the process of observing, we become aware there is something that is not affected by what is happening outside. If we make our stand in this space that is prior to all the mental troubles, then the detachment, the renunciation is happening naturally, easily. In the Christian history, there is that story of Francis of Assisi, who was a rich kid, brought up in luxury, very indulging, had his bunch of friends, and they came together and they really indulged into pleasures as they could. And suddenly he turned around and renounced everything. And then he became a very strict renunciate, doing lots of fastings and very hard physical stuff to himself. And at the end of his life, he apologized to his body. He said goodbye to everything before he was leaving his body. He knew it's time to go. And he had attained such an awareness of being connected with everything that he called everything, everybody, brother and sister, and everything, brother and sister. And his body he called his brother donkey, his brother us. And after having said goodbye and thanked all his brothers and sisters that were around him, the humans, the elements, the whole world, he apologized to his brother donkey, to his body. I have really treated you very badly. I have treated you very harsh, and I know it would not have been necessary to do so. And please forgive me that I treated you so badly. Still, knowing that real renunciation is in the mind is not an excuse that we can after that go on indulging mindlessly. If there are strong desires, then we may have to go for them, but let us go for them consciously. If we do it consciously, then we see what's going on. We see where the fulfillment, the sense of fulfillment is coming from. That it is not the external circumstance that it is doing that, but simply if we fulfill desires, we let go, and in that letting go, that sense of joyousness, that aspect of existence which is always present, that joyousness has a chance to come to the surface and we are feeling happy. The crucial factor is that we are alert. And then we find our way. Each one's story is different. What is right for one is not necessarily right for another. But it's right for everybody. It's necessary to do it consciously, not half asleep. All right.